I'm Maggie Booz. I am an architect, as John said. I have a company in Cambridge for the past 25 years. And I grew up in Detroit, which was a very leafy city and a very inspiring city in the early 1960s. And I think growing up in Detroit and being among the buildings and among the elm trees was a huge influence on me. And so I care very much about the urban forest as well as our built structures. And I want very much to make a place that combines those two things in the most beautiful way. I'm also the co-chair of the Committee on Public Planting for the City of Cambridge, which falls under the auspices of the DPW. We're a citizen volunteer committee. We meet every month and we try our best to influence the strategies and efforts towards our urban forest. We meet with the city arborist. We often meet with the head of the DPW and discuss tree issues in Cambridge and planting issues. I'm a past president of the Cambridge Plant and Garden Club, which is unlike most garden clubs in the United States, very activist and has a history of radical action, though you might not realize it from its membership. And I'm an avid gardener and urban farmer. I want to talk about the value of trees first of all. So we're going from the global issues to the waterways, and now we're going really down to earth in our presentations here today. I then want to talk about specific conditions of trees and what they face in the urban environment, and then I want to talk about progress. So, just enumerating the value of trees. I know you all know this, but I'm going to say all these things anyway. What better thing is there than to stand under a tree in summer and feel its cool shade? The mitigation of the urban heat island effect is phenomenal because of trees. Trees provide habitat for local species. They promote biodiversity. They clean our air, they purify our air, and they produce oxygen, of course. And they amazingly, well, maybe not so amazingly, but they enhance property value. And I think last but certainly not least is how incredibly beautiful they are. And I think I'm sure that every person in this room is in agreement with me there. But the kinds of things that they face in the urban environment are really, really tough. And I wish I had an image, but I think I can conjure it in your minds of either Massachusetts Avenue or Harvard Street is a very famous picture in the archives of Cambridge of the amazing tree canopies that used to be present in our town. And a lot of it is lost because of paving and development, and obviously the automobile. But some of it is also things we can do more about than eradication of the automobile. They also have suffered not just by the automobile and paving, but also by application of salts in wintertime for clearing our streets, a demand by the citizenry that our streets and sidewalks be black in the wintertime, and then lack of water, drought, trash, compaction, bicycles tied to trees, and all the many things that, all the many pests and things that species are being challenged with that they weren't challenged with 100 to 150 years ago. So we've seen a tree canopy decrease that's been pretty radical in Cambridge. And we have evidence from a study done by the University of Vermont with a system called LIDAR that shows that our tree canopy from 2009 to 2014 diminished by about 6.7%. 11% of that was on private property, which is probably the result of a large amount of development during that time. in the city. As you know, there's the occasional person who's cutting down a tree in their yard, but that's not 11%. That's landscape management. It's really large scale clearing of even areas that you might think are fairly blighted or inconsequential actually are fairly consequential, and they do have trees on them, and a lot of those have been cut down. We don't have any evidence from 2014 to 2018 because there hasn't been a LiDAR study done again yet. But we're worried that because of the drought that we all experienced 2 years ago, that we're going to see a lot more tree canopy decrease. So the city of Cambridge plants about 300 to 500 trees per year, and they plant in both growing seasons. They plant in the fall and in the spring, and the citizens of Cambridge demand a lot of tree planting. They're always clamoring for tree planting, and as you know, the participatory budget always has a number of tree planting proposals and has garnered a lot of votes, and the city has responded and planted 100 trees each year because of the participatory budgeting, in addition to the 300 to 500 that they plant as a part of their urban planting strategy. But even with that kind of massive planting, there's still tree canopy loss. And so what we advocate on the Committee for Public Planting is strategies for tree care that are promoting trees thriving. So we've been involved in a considerable increase in the budget, first of all, for tree maintenance as well as tree planting. Yay. We've been involved with new tree planting specifications, some of which were great improvements in how our trees were planted and guaranteed after their planting. And we've been involved with the utility companies, Eversource, about their tree pruning techniques, because a lot of that was very, very damaging to our tree canopy prior to about 3 years ago, when the Committee on Public Planting actually met and went out to the field with the pruners and made changes and demands about how we wanted tree pruning to take place. The city also, I'm completely neglecting these slides here after spending so much time trying to figure them out, sorry. I'll show them in a second. The city also has something that is a really wonderful program that is very little publicized and not very known about, which is an Adopt a Tree program. It's buried on the Urban Forestry website under the DPW. But it allows citizens to harness their passion about trees and their caring about trees and adopt one and take care of it, water it, pick up the trash, weed the tree well, take care of the tree. If there's a bicycle attached to it, you can encourage the city to either remove the bicycle, or you can find the person who locked the bicycle to the tree and say, hey, could you lock it to a post next time? It kind of hurts the bark to lock a tree to it. And then I guess the other major thing that I see as a sort of citizen effort that I've been involved with, and actually now I will pull up a slide. I guess hearkening back to Tom Wessel, our keynote speaker's presentation, I'd maybe entitle this effort Mutualism, and that is a partnering with your city, with your trees, with your neighborhoods, and with your friends to make individual efforts towards stewardship of our trees. And this is just a project that I've been involved with. I hardly call it that. A friend and I decided that we were sort of tired of weedy areas around the city. And so we have this kind of 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning guerrilla weeding project that we do. And we just we just go weeding, and it's, you know, it's gratifying personally. It beautifies certain areas, we feel, and we don't feel like we're obligated to gather 20 people to do it. We can just go do it. And I think I was telling John, I think this is a little bit my Midwestern roots. You know, if you see something that needs done, you know, see something that needs doing, you simply go do it. You don't ask somebody else, and you don't necessarily have to expect your city to do it, because the city really doesn't have the resources to do the kind of massive care and stewardship that we wish it did. So this is just a series of pictures that I'm going to, I think, just scroll through. I don't know if you'll recognize this concrete triangle, but it's at the intersection of Mount Auburn Street and Brattle Street. When you're on your way down to the Star Market in western Cambridge, you come across this concrete triangle. And it has a bunch of trees in it. And as you can see, it was pretty weedy when we started. Weeds in brick tree wells. So the trees are kind of bricked in, and there's a lot of weeds growing between them. There's weeds in between the pieces of concrete, etc. So these are befores. And here's the beginning of the weeding process. So we just would go out, and this was summer of 2017, last year, and we weeded this triangle about 3 times, and a friend and I, and then we actually, a couple of more friends joined us. These are late summer pictures, and you can see that, you know, there's good progress being made on the tree wells. Another friend, and you can kind of look down that island and see that the weeds are diminishing, and we weed enough, and they do tend to go away. And then here's the finished product, and we thought it was lovely. And we stood out there, and because we've done this in other areas and picked up loads of trash, in this area we realized there was no trash at all, none. And we were like, this is, you know, curious. And then we realized that no one ever goes to this concrete island. There's absolutely no reason to walk over there unless you want to do some weeding. So here's this concrete island, and, you know, why is there all this concrete here? This is ridiculous. It's just a place for weeds to grow. So we sent our slides to the city and said, you know, is there any reason for this to be concrete? You know, why don't we have some permeable area? We've done this before. We've gone through these weeding projects, and I have another one, but I don't have the slides for, which is the whole strip in front of the Star Market, where the city, where we weeded for years, and then the city took out the concrete between the trees. And this one, we sent our slides and said, you know, boy, no reason for this concrete. And 2 weeks later, I'm driving along Mount Auburn Street, and these huge trucks have moved in. It was just the most gratifying, amazing experience, and they're just ripping up that concrete. And as you can see, they did. I mean, they didn't even tell us they were going to, and it was just the most miraculous thing. I'm sending this up. Now there'll be a zillion more weeds, of course, but I'm just sending it to inspire you to action. I'm showing this to you so that you can say, oh my gosh, some little thing I could do could really, really affect my town. So that's, you know, that's my thing. I hope it's yours.